Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show. I'm your host, Skip Coryell, author of 22 books, Marine Corps veteran, founder of the Second Amendment March, proud father of 7, grandfather to 19 and counting, and as a special bonus, I'm also madly in love with my own wife. My priorities in life are God, family, and country, in that order, and I hereby promise to never compromise in my convictions. I may go broke, but I'll never go woke. And joining me today is my faithful co-host, Sara Coryell, my dear and adoring wife.
Hello, it's glad to be here again.
Well, I'm glad to be here too.
Or still, I'm not sure what.
After 2 failed marriages, I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you.
Well,
I have one failed one too, so there's like 3.
Sara,
Mm-hmm.
You were upstairs working in your office there about a half hour ago.
I was?
Yes, you were. Well, you were talking on the phone.
I was confirming that I was.
I gave you the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
You were working, right? Did you hear the gunshot?
I did.
And what's the first thing you thought?
That you'd shot a rooster or an animal in the chicken coop because the chickens were clucking a lot about it.
Ah, well, actually, that's a pretty good guess.
Okay.
But remember, I don't know, about a month ago, we talked on the Home Defense Show about you eating a groundhog on the... Oh, I've already missed twice with my pistol, so I transitioned to a shotgun, and we've got a nice, young, meaty groundhog out there, and it's just waiting for me to finish recording here.
You know what I was talking about on the phone?
What?
It does not fit on your radio show. It's so funny. I was talking to a friend of mine about eating vegan and how she does it.
Well, you're in the wrong house if you're going to eat vegan.
She might have some good pointers on ways to make it work better.
Well, now you can offer her some groundhog because I'll have Cedar go out and skin it, gut it out, and get it cleaned. And next week, we'll eat it on the show. It'll be great. Garlic, butter, some herbs, spices. You're not saying anything. Sara, come on. Be a sport.
I'm being a sport.
You being...
I'm going to call my friend again and talk more about vegan.
Oh, okay. Well, don't make me sleep on the couch tonight, okay?
It's a love seat couch.
Yeah, I know. It's too small. It's too small. All right. Well, Sara, what's on the show today?
Back to business. Okay. Today, we are talking to Royce Bartlett, host of Shooting Straight Radio Podast, about his favorite alphabet soup federal agency. Then, in the shootingclasses.com self-defense report, we'll be talking to firearms instructor Fred Mastison from Arizona, where we get some expert advice on how to intervene when someone else is being attacked with a knife. Well, sounds like great stuff.
Oh, it is great stuff. And I guarantee you that Royce Bartlett, he would eat the groundhog too. Fred Mastison, he would eat the groundhog too.
Must be good stuff, I guess.
Actually, to be honest with you, I've never eaten a groundhog in my whole life, ever.
It's kind of like in the rodent family, isn't it?
Well, but it's a very large rodent. I mean, it's not a rat. They're totally vegan. This is a vegan animal, so it's got to be good.
Well, I have heard that people keep like in South America, that they keep guinea pigs in their kitchen. And while that to me is a pet, that a guinea pig is actually a food source. Like kind of the quick chicken is the guinea pig in the kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna see them, in the meat section at Walmart. Well, maybe at Walmart, but not in. I'm just not excited. Not at Myers. No, yeah, you're not gonna see them in the.
I did get some cheesecake today. Now that was exciting, but.
Oh well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving right along. But before we get too far into the show, let's thank our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range, and Apple Tree Media. All right, Sara, so what is in the news today? There's really only one big, huge story coming out of California today. What is it?
California. Well, Trump says he will send whatever is needed to maintain law and order in California. California National Guard members in downtown Los Angeles fired off pepper spray and flashbangs to disperse a crowd of protesters after being struck by flying objects on Sunday afternoon. Live video showed a bottle being thrown at the shield-wielding, gas mask-wearing, and gun-toting Guard members protecting the Metropolitan Detention Center, causing them to spring into action. The pops of pepper spray being deployed could be heard, followed by flashbangs and coughs from the crowd. One man was heard shouting, "This is America!" as the Guardsmen continued to push the crowd back. The National Guard is expected to be deployed in Los Angeles County for up to 60 days in response to the riots. President Donald Trump said that he will send whatever is needed to maintain law and order in California amid recent riots over raids conducted by the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. One reporter asked Trump if he was prepared to invoke the Insurrection Act, to which he said, "It depends on whether there is an insurrection or not." Trump said he did not think there was an insurrection in Los Angeles, but he described the rioters as violent people, adding the U.S. is not going to let them get away with their actions. Trump was also asked if he was considering sending Marines to Los Angeles and what the bar would be for sending the Marines. "The bar is what I think it is. I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, it will be very, very strong in terms of law and order," he said. "We'll send whatever we need to make sure there's law and order." When asked if he foresees the protests spreading to other cities like Chicago and New York City, Trump said that the situation will be watched very closely. Trump also pointed out that the protesters are spitting at the law enforcement officers and throwing items at them, which will not be tolerated. He also said if California officials get in the way of the deportations, they will face charges.
All right. I have a lot to say about that, but what are your initial thoughts on that, Sarah?
I think President Trump is doing a great job balancing all of the different forces that are trying to take him down. They're like setting traps for him, set a line for when you're going to send in the Marines, and then if he doesn't do it, or then they'll attack him for that, or if he does do it, they'll attack him for that. He just says, when it's time, we'll send him. He just kind of plays his cards a little closer. I think that's great. He's right, law and order. That's his job. He's the president. He's not supposed to be the big nice guy. He's supposed to be the law and order guy. I think he's doing a great job.
Actually, that was a pretty good analysis. You stole all my thunder.
Sorry.
Well, not all my thunder.
I really like our president, and people just give him grief all the time.
I know.
I'm just tired of it.
I know.
To their presidents,
Well, Donald Trump is the most hated and loved man in America.
Well, I guess I'm on the loved camp.
Well, so am I.
I think he's, an angel, or I would want him as a priest. I want him as a president, and he's doing a great job as a president.
Well, and just think about what these rioters are doing. Okay, there were about 1,000 rioters, and they descended on a federal detention center, and were throwing rocks and bottles. They set a car on fire.
Oh goodness!
And then the Democrats, they defend these people and attack Donald Trump. And it's like, what is he supposed to do? Just let all the illegal aliens out of prison because that's what they want to happen?
No,
that's not law and order.
No, he mustn't. Yeah.
I mean, he's got to hold the line, and you're right. They are going to, it's like he's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't. So in a case like that, you might as well do what you think is best, because they're going to hang you either way. So just do the right thing. And I want my president to enforce the law. I want him to maintain law and order, because we saw what happened, 4 or 5 years ago during all of the COVID riots, the Ferguson riots and all of that stuff. I don't want to return to that.
No. I mean, 1,000 people in California isn't that many people. I mean, it feels like a lot of people, but there are a lot of people who aren't involved in these riots, and they would probably like to go on with their lives, normal, happy. They want to go to the beach. They want to do their jobs. They want to go walk around and get coffee. I mean, they're not like normal people. And,
you're right.
Craziness is going on around them. I'm sure they would like some law and order. These poor people.
You're absolutely right. And here's my guess. These people are either paid to come and do this, or a lot of them are illegal aliens themselves, because there are a lot of illegal aliens in Southern California because they're tolerated, and it's basically a sanctuary state. So that's what I'm guessing. And we'll just have to wait and see what happens. As far as deploying the Marines to quell the riots, I don't feel warm and fuzzy about that.
Yeah.
Simply because I was in the Marines, and I know that we're not trained to quell riots. We've been trained to basically kill people and break things. That's the job of the military. And you don't want to do that on U.S. soil, even if they are illegal aliens. Law enforcement should be doing this. The LAPD should be handling this, but they're not handling it. All right, so let's get away from politics right now and get to something positive, and I know you're going to like this one. Sarah, who is our Home Defense Show hero of the week?
While a resident at the Portsmouth Humane Society shelter, a dog's life was changed forever. That Friday, Chris Kushna and Sheila Janes stopped by the facility. Janes's granddaughter Luna, 8, and Kushna's children, Anya, 10, and Logan, 12, were staying for the weekend on the couple's 1983 42-foot Gibson houseboat, docked at the Tidewater Yacht Marina. Pondering ways to entertain the children, Janes remembered that the Humane Society allows people to check out dogs for the day. We walked past a lot of dogs that were very loud about wanting somebody to take them, Janes said, but Moose was in the very back and just had this sort of gentle giant, calm, chill demeanor about him. The family had such a good time with Moose, they decided to keep him for another day. He slept with the kids. Around 7:30 a.m. Sunday, Anya woke up when Moose started softly whining. Anya woke her father, and the two took Moose onto the deck, thinking he may need to relieve himself. But they saw a massive fire overtaking the neighboring boat. Kushner ran back inside, waking the rest of the family and getting them to the deck. Within minutes, flames leapt to their houseboat. Kushner said the dog alerting us as early as he did was crucial in terms of getting everyone out safely. With their home destroyed, the couple couldn't adopt Moose. Sierra Hill was lounging on her back porch, reading on her phone about Moose's deed on the Humane Society's Facebook page as her husband worked the grill. "That dog, the one who rescued the people from the fire?" she said to her husband. "Yeah." "He's been returned to the shelter." "Well, go get him," Daryl Hill said. She drove to Portsmouth and took Moose back to the farm that morning. "A dog like that rescued people, that's a hero and doesn't need to be in a cage," Daryl Hill said, "and we have all this space. He's home now." Our hero, Moose, has found a home on a farm in Franklin with his new forever family. His adopted parents, Sierra and Daryl, feel he deserves it. The 8-year-old Great Pyrenees lives on 5 acres bordered by woods, a creek to splash through, and expansive cornfields. He'll never be alone again. Around him in the fenced-in yard, 4 goats bleat, and 18 turkeys and more than 20 chickens peck at the grass. Tim, an African spurred tortoise, moseys near the rabbit hutch. A deck extends from the house to an above-ground dog-friendly pool. Moose also has 7 canine siblings, a mess of terriers, Susie, the big Great Dane, and even one suspected Chinese crested and Maltese mix, and has become fast friends with Buddha, a Labrador retriever. The buds eat meals together. According to the American Kennel Club, a full-grown male Great Pyrenees averages over 100 pounds. Moose weighs about 85, and like many newly rescued dogs, is visibly thin. He's fed high-protein wet food in the morning, 2 cans of dry kibble to graze on throughout the day, and a second can of high protein in the evening. "We're trying to help put a little bit of weight back on him," Sierra Hill said.
So that makes you feel warm and fuzzy, doesn't it?
That's a sweet story. It is.
Well, maybe it's just me, but the first thought that came to my mind was, this dog Moose, he would not bat an eye at eating that groundhog.
That's probably true.
I mean, why spend all this money on, high protein canned dog food when dog food is running around you all over the place?
Maybe as he gets his strength back, maybe he'll be, ridding their property of varmints. Who knows?
It's so nice of you to humor me like this. But you like that, didn't you?
Very nice.
I knew you would.
Going there. 18 turkeys and a tortoise.
A tortoise, yeah. Well, you know how I feel about dogs, right? Well, you're my wife.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy about dogs. I tolerate them, but strictly from a security standpoint, I realize they're an asset, or they can be an asset. But they're like anything else, right? I mean, your kids can be an asset, but they have to be trained and they have to be good kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same way with dogs. A dog can either save your life or it can take your life. I hope they train this 100-pound dog.
Well, Great Pyrenees aren't, it's not one of the breeds that are known for doing damage to their owners. It seems to be a good breed. I want to know how common it is for dogs to bark or whine at smoke like that.
I've heard stories like this before, so I think it's fairly common.
I wonder about dogs who live in houses where there's wood heat used in the winter.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. In our house,
They probably get
They're used to fire,
They better.
smoke. Yeah. But, not in the summertime.
It's true.
Well, I guess.
They surely don't like fireworks. That much I know.
Well, I hope we never have to find out.
Yes, that would be best.
All right. Well, hey, that's a great feel-good story. I don't know if Moose is a Democrat or a Republican.
It's okay.
The article didn't say.
He doesn't get to vote, so.
But yeah, as long as he's saving lives, I guess it doesn't matter.
Good job, Moose. Good job.
All right. Well, Sarah, what's coming up on the show next?
Next, we are talking to Royce Bartlett, host of Shooting Straight Radio Podast, about his favorite alphabet soup federal agency. I want to know what it is.
You'll have to stay tuned.
I guess so. Then in the shootingclasses.com self-defense report, we'll be talking to firearms instructor Fred Mastison from Arizona, where we get some expert advice on how to intervene when someone else is being attacked with a knife.
Yeah, well, Fred Mastison, he just got back from northern Canada on a black bear hunt.
Oh,
So,
story
a
there.
bit bigger than a groundhog.
Yeah, sounds like a great story there.
All right. But in the meantime, God bless and stay safe, because we will be right back.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
At Center Shot Gun Range, we are passionate about training. Don't know where to start? We offer a 1-hour new shooter seminar to introduce you to the world of firearms and help you find training opportunities specific to you. Concealed carry, home defense, firearm safety, AR-15, private one-on-one training, custom training, or maybe you're on a security team looking to protect your church or business. We even offer weekday morning and evening classes. Center Shot Gun Range has you covered. Start your journey at centershotgunrange.com.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
Attention business owners. Are you leaving your website open to security issues and hacking due to a lack of maintenance or overseas outsourcing? Don't let that happen to your business. Choose experienced U.S.-based website developers that can customize your website to fit your specific needs. Appletree MediaWorks has been growing businesses online since 2009. With over 80 years of combined experience, their team conducts constant research and development to keep up with ever-changing online threats. Your website deserves the best protection available. Call Appletree MediaWorks today at 877-977-1364 to keep your website secure and grow your business online. Or visit appletree.media.
Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If this sounds good to you, you sound good to me. And I'd like to help you do those things. Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If you're looking for more excitement in your life, we have nothing to offer you. But if you are a thoughtful, responsible, nonviolent man or woman, we'd love to teach you what to do if something crazy happens. More importantly, we'd like to teach you what not to do. We currently have over 500,000 members. They are doctors and single moms and firemen and grandmothers and veterans and Democrats and Republicans and members of every faith. But the one thing they all have in common is that they know exactly what to do if something crazy happens. When you're with one of our members, you are safe. Our members know how to de-escalate situations. They know how to calm things down. We are the United States Concealed Carry Association. See what we're all about at usconcealedcarry.com.
Discover the little-known backstory of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association at usconcealedcarry.com.
Some say his face is painfully ugly, and I agree. But who cares? This is radio. Welcome back to the Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was the beautiful and sultry voice of Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show. Folks, we live in a dangerous world, and I want you to be able to protect and defend the ones you love. And that's why I have this show. It's my way of empowering you to accomplish one of your primary jobs in life. You are a protector and a defender. All right, listeners, before we get too far into the show, don't forget to check out our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range, and Appletree Media. Without our sponsors, this show wouldn't be on the air, so we thank you all. And now I'd like to welcome a regular contributor to the show, Royce Bartlett, host of Shooting Straight Radio Podast. Royce, welcome back to the Home Defense Show.
Yep, thanks for having me again. You're a brave man.
Well, actually, there's no courage required for this because, we pretty much agree with each other anyways.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I sent you this article, about the ATF doing a no-knock raid.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that you might have an opinion on it, but I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to read parts of this article. And then I just want to hear you talk about how much you love the federal government and the ATF. So
you like poking the bear, brother. You like poking the bear.
I don't think I have to poke you too much.
No,
all
sir,
right.
Not much at all.
Well, this article here, it says Jim Jordan confronts ATF director over raid that killed Brian Malinowski. And, I tried to watch this video of Jim Jordan from the House Judiciary Committee questioning the director of the ATF. I could watch it for like 2 minutes, and then I had to stop because it was making my blood boil. Because this guy, he would not answer the most basic questions. He just, anyway, I got to read the article. Here we go. It says, in a heated House Judiciary Committee hearing, Representative Jim Jordan grilled ATF Director Stephen Dettenbach over the controversial raid that resulted in the death of Brian Malinowski, a Little Rock Airport executive. The raid, which took place on March 19, 2024, has raised serious questions about the tactics used by the ATF and the apparent lack of transparency in the aftermath. The key points from the hearing: Jim Jordan pressed Director Dettenbach on several critical issues. 1, tampering with surveillance. The ATF disabled the doorbell camera at Malinowski's house and cut the electricity. Jordan questioned why these actions were taken, suggesting that they were attempts to hide something. 2, the lack of body cameras. Jordan highlighted that ATF agents did not wear body cameras during the raid, despite policies and the high-risk nature of the operation. He demanded to know why these rules were not followed. And 3, use of a no-knock warrant. The raid was conducted as a no-knock operation, which is typically reserved for situations where it's deemed the only viable option. Jordan challenged the necessity of this approach, especially given Malinowski's non-criminal background. All right. Now, that should give you a jump start there. I have primed the pump now. So tell me now, this Malinowski guy, he must have been a pretty dangerous guy, for them to do this. Basically, what was it, like 5 o'clock in the morning? They broke down his front door and came in, and what he thought, he jumped out of bed thinking someone was breaking into his house, which is absolutely true. He didn't know they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they covered up his surveillance camera. They didn't identify themselves. I think they hit the siren for, I believe, 1.5 seconds. Is that the way it was?
At approximately 1.5 seconds. Even the neighbors, when they were questioned, said they didn't hear the siren. So obviously it wasn't loud enough to wake up Brian Malinowski either. The really sick thing about this whole thing, Skip, is they knew he was not dangerous. They've already had depositions from a couple of agents that said, we knew he was not a dangerous person. Okay, why the dynamic entry into his home then? They knew all about him. They knew the flea markets that he sold his curio and relic firearms at, and the gold and silver and stuff that he traded in. They knew they could have found him anytime. They had already done a couple of controlled buys, for that matter. So it's not like they didn't know his patterns, his sales patterns. But they killed him over a $200 license, or the lack thereof, because they went after him
license or something.
An FFL license, because they said under their new zero tolerance policies and stuff that were dictated on high from the Biden administration. First, it came from the mouth of Obama, I believe, but they went after him and said he was an unlicensed dealer. That was the basis of starting their investigation. So they killed him over a $200 license. They went in there, 10 cars full of agents, 10 cars full of agents. I'm going to assume at least 2 to 4 each car. And they brought one Arkansas state trooper. And they did what they did. They knocked and announced, they claimed, but they only gave him 20 seconds to respond. And they, like you said, cut his electricity. Now, so you hear people beating your door in and suddenly you can't turn your lights on. Is your first impulse to think, that must be the ATF or the cops. I best comply and surrender.
Yeah.
No, that ain't no, that ain't the way it's going to work. And I'm a much better shot than Brian Malinowski. So they should never try that here. And but what's worse is after he came out of his bedroom and he fired a shot towards the ground, actually, because he wasn't really trying to hit anybody. The round bounced off the floor and hit an agent in the leg, and they returned fire and popped 2 in his face. Okay, he's laying there on his floor, bleeding out and kicking and squirming and what other, everything else headshot people do, gasping for breath as they took his wife out of her bedroom, past his twitching body, stuck her in the back of a police car, one of their cars, in 34-degree weather, and she's in a flimsy nightgown. And she stayed there in that car. They wouldn't let her get out and use the neighbor's restroom or anything. And she had to go to the restroom. And she sat there in the back of that car in 34-degree weather in a flimsy nightgown. They wouldn't let her get out for 5 hours while they plundered the house and tossed it.
Wow.
Over a $200 license. Your government will kill you over a $200 license. That's a comforting thing. You were saying this is a dangerous world we live in. And my response to that immediately in my mind was, heck yeah, Skip. And our government is the biggest pack of armed criminals we could think of. I mean, this is insidious what they did. And it was all based on this zero tolerance enforcement where they were, shutting mom and pop stores down over a minor clerical error. So that's what they went in there for. They knew he wasn't dangerous. They didn't have to do it. They went in there and they killed that man over a $200 license.
Well,
that's sick.
Yeah, well, it is. And the thing is, it's not like this is the first time that this has ever happened before with the ATF.
Not at all. Not at all.
They have a history of doing this, like, 2 decades of doing this?
They actually began as the alcohol taxing unit back in Prohibition. They were an extension of the IRS. How comforting. They literally, as the alcohol taxing unit, they began their murderous career by poisoning over 10,000 American citizens by purposely introducing poisoned alcohol into the underground market. They found stash houses and they swapped the liquor out with poison, knowing people would drink it and die. So that gives you, that was their head start. That was their debut. And since then, they have murdered a lot of people. I mean, not just the high profile stuff like Randy Weaver that they instigated, and not just Waco. I mean, there's a lot of just individuals who have been murdered by these guys. So they're criminals with badges. I'm not going to be charitable about it. I don't. I know the Christian side of me says, hey, you got to be respectful of the authorities and blah, blah, blah. And the other side of me says, shut up. I think I got a white wolf and a black wolf within me, and they both hate the ATF.
This is the kind of thing that keeps me awake at night. Because
it should.
Well, listeners out there, I'm talking to you right now. What's the first thing that you think when you hear a crash or someone beating on your door, in the wee hours of the night? Your first thought is going to be, it's reasonable that a bad person is trying to break into your house. You need to get your gun. You need to set yourself up in behind some cover so that you can properly greet them when they come in through the door. I mean, that's exactly what I would do. And if they rated me this way, man, I don't want to kill a law enforcement person, but I don't want them to kill me either. And it's like, how do you win against these guys?
Well, that's a great question, Skip, and it's going to have to probably start with a declaration letting them know that from this day forward, you will not enforce anything by heavy force. You will turn it over to the local law enforcement and allow them to proceed, but you are not going to do what you've been doing.
Yeah.
It's worse. Think about this, Skip. You just said you hear a crash, you're not going to assume it's law enforcement, especially when Mr. Malinowski had zero reason to believe that he was the target of a law enforcement investigation.
Yeah.
And so let's say, Skip, you hear the crash and you come out of your door and you see men wearing balaclava masks.
Yeah.
Are you going to assume, oh, they're the good guys? Or do you take the extra time to go, hey, you guys wearing badges?
Well, and that house would have been really dark too, because they cut off the power.
Exactly. You can't say. You see guys with masks and guns. It's bang time, baby. It's not time to hey, who are you guys? Do you need a cup of sugar? Is that it? No. It's bang time.
I know. Well, just a few miles from my house, there was a no-knock raid by the FBI. And basically, okay, are you familiar with the alleged plot to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer here in Michigan?
Yes, that farce. Yes, I'm familiar with it.
Well, hey, the Null brothers, two of the guys that were acquitted, that wouldn't roll over, they were totally acquitted, but they live just like 5 miles away from me. And
wow.
the FBI came into an adjoining county to the county sheriff to get their SWAT team in their armored vehicle. And then they went into the next county over without notifying the county sheriff, and did a no-knock raid after they had already arrested the two the Null brothers. They already had him in custody, but they raided the house anyways. I think they ran over his car and into the porch. It was just, I interviewed Bill Null, one of the twins. The guys are twins, and it was just terrible what happened to them. But it's like no one's been held accountable for that either, and it seems like no one in the ATF ever has to answer for murder. They get away with murder, and I don't get it.
No, I don't either. And again, what it really boils down to is we, the people, might have to send them a very bold declaration, much like the colonists did to the British, and let them know your tyranny ends here today. And as from this time forth, right now, we declare the right of self-defense against you. If you bring violent aggression against us, we will defend ourselves, and we will defend ourselves with deadly force. It is our right as an American citizen to do so, and that's just the bottom line. I don't care if you like it or not, but that's what it is. Let them know. And now they're going to start thinking, okay, there's a lot of determined people that signed this here paper. Well, we need to be very careful. If they really want to mass their forces together and try to come out in force against us, that would be dumber than a bag of hammers. They don't have the manpower. I know a lot of them fancy themselves to be badass operators and everything, but 2 weeks on a SWAT school doesn't make you a badass operator. I don't care. And that's another thing that played into Mr. Malinowski's death.
I was hoping that once Donald Trump took office, that they would do some house cleaning, possibly even abolish the ATF. Is there any hope of reforming the ATF, or does it just have to go?
It has to go. They have come out with a statement they released on their website talking about how they were reforming themselves. Okay, well, there's an admission of guilt right there, if you ask me.
That's true. That's true.
But we're going to reform ourselves. We're going to do all these lofty things. And I talked about it a couple of episodes ago on my program. And I wanted to have playing in the background the whole time, Meet the New Boss, same as the old boss by The Who. Meet the new ATF, same as the old ATF. They're we're going to be nice people. We're the kinder, gentler ATF now, and we're going to roll back that zero tolerance enforcement thing on FFLs, and we're going to be buds, and we're going to be partners. As a matter, they even called themselves. They said that we're going to be partners in the industry. It's kind of like the mafia. We're your new partner. All right, you give me 10% of the. Yes. We're going to be your partners in the industry now. We're going to be buddies, and everything's going to be just. We're going to hold hands around the campfire and sway and sing Kumbaya.
Wow.
No, thank you. They are not. In proof of this, one of my sponsors, a local gun store, within like a week of that episode, they descended on him with a heavy audit, and they were there 4 or 5 days with an audit, going through everything, and he said they were not polite people at all.
That is sad. Is there really any such a thing as a kinder, gentler homicide, though?
Well, that's the thing. It's like a kinder, gentler Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yes.
When
he prays before he eats you.
Yes, right.
Thank you, Lord, for this food I'm about to partake.
They are drunk on power, and that's the problem. Once someone is addicted to power, they don't ever want to give it up, because I guess you should say it tweaks that delusion of divinity within when they start thinking they're gods. And I've accused a lot of ATF guys of having a godlike complex. They literally think they have the power of life and death over you, and nothing bad will ever happen to them in return.
Well, I guess that makes sense, given the history. That's kind of true, right? I mean, they don't answer for the things that they do.
Well, it's kind of like a bully at school. The bully's going to keep being a bully until someone stands up and bops that bully in the nose a few times, or punts his testicles up around his ears and lets him know that your tyranny ends today. And that's a lot of times all you have to do is stand up to the bully, and you don't have to belt him, and he'll back down. Yeah. And that's why I said we're at the place where it's time for a declaration. We don't want the ATF. Their sole purpose for existing is the infringement of the Second Amendment, and they need to go. And so does the NFA and the GCA and those other old gun control laws that empowered them in the first place.
Well, on second thought, maybe I shouldn't have had you on my show, because now I'm going to be audited.
Yeah, more than likely.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, I knew you would have a strong opinion, and that you'd know more about this than me. I guess in closing, we should be praying for Mr. Malinowski's family that's left behind, because they don't have him anymore.
Well, she's filed a federal lawsuit, and she's going after them, and they're trying to obfuscate and hold back evidence and stuff. But it's a wait and see what happens there. So pray for her. That's a terrible thing that our government did to her. Not only murder her husband in front of her very eyes, but then the hellish treatment afterward. Stuffing her out there in a thin nightgown in 34-degree weather in the back of a cop car for 5 hours, and no, you can't use the bathroom.
And the whole time knowing that your husband is bleeding out in your living room.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah.
You can't go to him, and you can't at least say goodbye while he's laying there gasping. These people are I don't know. This is a strong word. They're demonic.
Yeah.
People that are drunk on power usually are demonic anyway in their actions, but man, these guys are insidious.
Yeah.
And then they act like, well, we didn't do anything wrong. There was an inquest, and we investigated ourselves and found ourselves innocent,
Yes. I know. It's terrible. All right. Well, hey, we're out of time, but before you go, give us something positive. Talk about the Shooting Straight podcast, because I suspect that you talk the same way on your own show.
You suspect correctly, sir. Guilty as charged. Mea culpa maxima. Oh yeah, I am not kind, and I say things like I see them, and it doesn't always make me friends. Maybe a few enemies for sure. Some of them have threatened me, but
well, how can people listen in on the Shooting Straight Radio podcast, Royce?
On any of the podcast platforms out there, just type in Shooting Straight Radio, and it should take you right to it, and they'll see my logo there. It's actually I just revamped my logo, and after 11 years, and it looks a lot better. So,
okay. All right. Well, Royce, thank you very much for your candor. And hey, you got to have me on your show now too, and I promise to be, every bit as blunt as you.
Good. Well, I hope so. Yeah, I think I might have my phone issues finally worked out, because this has been one of those confounding problems. But yeah, as soon as I do, I got it on my calendar to have you on for sure.
All right, fantastic. All right, well, hey, thank you very much for being on Home Defense Show today, Royce.
Thanks for having me on, Skip.
All right, this is Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show. Coming up next, we'll have the shootingclasses.com self-defense report with firearms instructor Fred Mastison from Arizona, where we get some expert advice on how to intervene when someone else is being attacked with a knife. But during the break, I want you to log into rumble.com and search on the Home Defense Show. I posted a series of entertaining and educational videos there just for you. Check them out, and don't forget to like, share, and follow. God bless and stay safe, because we will be right back.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
At Center Shot Gun Range, we are passionate about training. Don't know where to start? We offer a 1-hour new shooter seminar to introduce you to the world of firearms and help you find training opportunities specific to you. Concealed carry, home defense, firearm safety, AR-15, private one-on-one training, custom training, or maybe you're on a security team looking to protect your church or business. We even offer weekday morning and evening classes. Center Shot Gun Range has you covered. Start your journey at centershotgunrange.com.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
Attention business owners. Are you leaving your website open to security issues and hacking due to a lack of maintenance or overseas outsourcing? Don't let that happen to your business. Choose experienced U.S.-based website developers that can customize your website to fit your specific needs. Appletree MediaWorks has been growing businesses online since 2009. With over 80 years of combined experience, their team conducts constant research and development to keep up with ever-changing online threats. Your website deserves the best protection available. Call Appletree MediaWorks today at 877-977-1364 to keep your website secure and grow your business online. Or visit appletree.media.
Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If this sounds good to you, you sound good to me. And I'd like to help you do those things. Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If you're looking for more excitement in your life, we have nothing to offer you. But if you are a thoughtful, responsible, nonviolent man or woman, we'd love to teach you what to do if something crazy happens. More importantly, we'd like to teach you what not to do. We currently have over 500,000 members. They are doctors and single moms and firemen and grandmothers and veterans and Democrats and Republicans and members of every faith. But the one thing they all have in common is that they know exactly what to do if something crazy happens. When you're with one of our members, you are safe. Our members know how to de-escalate situations. They know how to calm things down. We are the United States Concealed Carry Association. See what we're all about at usconcealedcarry.com.
Discover the little-known backstory of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association at usconcealedcarry.com.
Liberals hate him, small children fear him, but God keeps on loving him anyway. Welcome back to the Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was a beautiful and sultry voice of Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show. And I'm your host, Skip Coryell. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, Apple Tree Media, and Center Shot Indoor Gun Range for all your training and equipment needs. And now it's time for our weekly self-defense report, sponsored by shootingclasses.com. And today we're speaking with self-defense instructor Fred Mastison from the great state of Arizona. Fred, thanks for coming back on the Home Defense Show today.
It's my absolute pleasure. It's always good to talk to you.
Well, yeah, it's good talking to you too. All right, you Arizona people, this is June now, so you're probably melting in the heat. Is that correct?
Well, it's about that time. You know, we call this the population control period. Everybody wants to move to Arizona. I'm like, you need to come in like August and then tell me if you want to move to Arizona.
Yeah, well, up here in Michigan, we have the same problem in reverse. It's like you want to move to Michigan, come here in January, and then think twice.
I've been to Michigan in January, and it's brutal.
Yes, it is. It's the cold is as brutal here as the heat is there, I think.
Well said.
All right. Fred, give us about 20 seconds here on your background and your training that you do.
Well, background-wise, I've been in the industry, the firearms industry, as a trainer and writer for 30-plus years. I do have a training company. We teach, and it sounds like a cliche thing to say, but we teach everything. Everything from what I call this in goes boom kind of classes, very much introduction to firearms that aren't even range classes, all the way up to advanced sniper, advanced combatives. I mean, you name it, we do it. Once again, it sounds kind of cliche, but I've been at it so long, and it's just a matter of time in the pot. I've been cooking long enough where I can cover it all.
Yeah.
Right now, obviously, I'm a gun writer, and I am fortunate to be able to do that. That's probably, in my mind, one of the greatest jobs in the world, because I get to write about all the new products, all the interesting things going on. So it's a pretty enjoyable life.
Well, we should have you on one time. Next time you do an article about a product that you're excited about, shoot me out an email and we'll get you on the air and you can talk about it.
I would love that.
All right, fantastic. Okay, but today what we're doing is we're going to talk about knife attacks and stabbings and all kinds of gross, vile stuff. So here comes the article, Fred. The title is Investigation Continues in Stabbing Death of Lifelong Warsaw Resident. This is out of Warsaw, Missouri. It says, on January 3, 2025, Warsaw, Missouri was rocked by a violent incident at the Lake Hills Motel on Highway 83. The Benton County Sheriff's Office, Warsaw Police Department, Warsaw Fire District, and Missouri State Highway Patrol responded to a distressing scene of violence that escalated from a verbal to a physical altercation, resulting in a stabbing and shooting. The confrontation involved Sean Paul Murphy, age 55, of Racine, Wisconsin, and local resident Kevin Noland, age 55, whose life was tragically taken too soon. Nolan, remembered for his generosity and loyalty, was fatally stabbed and pronounced dead at the scene, a devastating blow to those who knew him. Rob Koski remembers Kevin as more than a friend. He was a hero in every sense to me and many others in Benton County. As an EMT, he showed courage, compassion, and dedication, always ready to help those in need. His kindness and selflessness will forever inspire me and many others. The suspect, Murphy, was injured by a gunshot to the leg by Roger Herr, age 61, in an attempt to intervene. Murphy faces charges of first-degree murder and armed criminal action, with the community awaiting further developments. This incident has deeply affected the Warsaw community, prompting reflections on the life of Noland. All right, it goes on and on about how great a guy this was, but it's shy on the details of exactly what happened. You read this plus some other articles. Can you give us a synopsis on exactly what kind of an altercation was this and how did it transpire there?
Well, what I broke down from, and it's pretty thin information, as we spoke earlier, the media are notorious for a lot of times not giving deep information, or the information they give is a little questionable.
Yeah,
but what
yeah.
we take away from this is that an argument ensued between these gentlemen, and it then escalated into an attack by the assailant who used a knife and critically or lethally stabbed this gentleman, and he expired on the scene. A quick note on that too is for them to pronounce him dead on the scene. The stabbing must have been fairly significant or targeted pretty effectively for them to declare him dead on the scene. Another gentleman intervened, tried to intervene, fired apparently a single shot, struck the gentleman in the leg. There's once again not a lot of details about this, but it does speak to the point about the dangers of knives. I mean, we could go down a rabbit hole the size of Guatemala on this, on everything that's a takeaway from this. But more than anything else, I think it's, as I said, the lack of information kind of tells me that there was an argument. It got out of hand. The gentleman that ended up doing the attack chose to make his point with an edged weapon, with a knife of some sort, and it ended very poorly.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I hadn't thought of that before, but yeah, they pronounced him dead at the scene, so he must have got ripped open pretty badly.
Or it was a major artery strike or a stab to the heart.
Yeah, he just bled out.
If there's enough cardiac damage, or once again, and it counts. So this is not Chicago. So the distance or the time for EMTs or medical to arrive could be fairly significant, even with a life-threatening issue like this. So we don't know how long it took EMTs to arrive on scene. He, in fact, could have bled out because of the time lapse. I'm not trying to blame the EMTs.
Sure.
Distance is distance, and there's nothing you can do about that. But for them to pronounce him dead on scene makes me really wonder about how bad this injury was, because it had to be, a pretty focused attack.
Yeah. Well, it's ironic that the victim was an EMT himself.
Yeah, that's a painful irony.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things that came to mind for me, and you can tell me what you think. I thought it was odd, the age of the three people involved here. Two men just happened to be both 55 years old. I doubt they knew each other because they were from different states altogether. And at a motel, that's kind of a, transitional space anyways. But normally when you think of violent attacks like this, you don't think of people in their 50s and their 60s doing things like that. You think of young people. What's your take on that?
Well, that's well said. I think that there's a little bit of complicity towards older people, and that can be a very dangerous thing. Once again, there's a lot of questions. What were these gentlemen doing at the hotel? I mean, I have 1,000 questions that aren't really relevant, but I'm a nationally inquisitive person. But the idea that somebody of this age would be involved in such a violent confrontation is a quick reminder that everybody is at danger, and everybody is potentially dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
My father gave me the line that if you treat everybody as if they're, forgive the speech, but treat everybody as if they're a badass, then there'd be no surprises.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the case here. I think that the gentleman who ultimately ended up passing, he may have, underestimated how this gentleman would react. Once again, we don't know the details. So I'm really reading into this, but he obviously misread the situation.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
In turn, it cost him his life.
Yeah. I may have been tempted to do the same thing, Fred, because, primarily, I mean, the stats tell me, FBI crime stats, they say the person most likely to violently attack you is between the ages of 15 and 34, and they're male. And that demographic they're in the prime of their life. They're faster, they're stronger, more testosterone, all of that stuff. But, if I'm walking, out in a parking lot or something, and I see a a young guy, a military age male, it's like, okay, I give him a second look and I, give him the once over and say, okay, he's a threat, he's not a threat. I
Yeah.
don't do that so much with people in their 50s and their 60s, but I'm rethinking that now after reading this article.
Well, you would be wise to do that. And I say that because this isn't, bragging or anything, but Skip, look at you and I. I mean, we're not the average old guys walking down the street. We have a capacity and a mindset and an ability that even younger men don't have. So once again, if you measure everybody with the idea that they are potentially a lethal threat to me, then you are much better off. We use the same idea with women. A lot of times we'll look at a small, petite woman, and kind of just write her off as not being a threat. And a quick story is I teach executive protection courses as well. And one of the drills we do is I have the students escort their client through a courtyard and get them from point A to point B. And what I do is I have a friend, he's this burly, big, young biker looking guy, nicest guy in the world, gentle as a pussycat. And when they see him, they give him an enormous berth. They move, 15 yards away from him. And at the same time, I have a young, pretty female sitting, reading a book on a little bench, and they walk right past her. And when they do that, this woman, and they get close, this woman reaches out and stabs the client with a plastic knife.
Mm-hmm.
And the moral of the story is that everybody is potentially a danger.
Yeah. That reminds me a little bit of Sun Tzu's Art of War. One of the things he says is, when you are strong, appear weak. When you are weak, appear strong. And it's kind of the same kind of a deal there. So what you're saying there is that you and I, Fred, even though we're in our 60s, we are young, strapping, perfect physical specimens.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely.
And since this is radio, no one can argue with us. They
Exactly.
Don't know. I could be in a walker right now for all they know.
I know. But you know what? Nothing's more embarrassing than you get shot down by a guy in a walker. So
That's true. You and I, we can get in a fight with someone and there's no ego loss there because we're not expected to win anyways.
exactly, it's a complete win. And on top of that, we've trained. We know exactly. We know how to run a gun. We know how to avoid conflict. We know how to read a situation. We understand all the intricacies that go into conflict and even lethal conflict. We understand all the ABCs that go into it. And that gives us a huge advantage because we've been doing this our whole lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've been wargaming it in our minds forever.
Absolutely.
But, another thing that I wanted to ask you about was, okay, Roger Herr, age 61, shot the guy in the leg. I don't know if he purposely shot him in the leg or if he was just jacked up on adrenaline or a lousy shot or whatever. But talk about, give us your professional opinion on the guy's got a knife. He's just stabbed someone, and now you're going to intervene. Where should you shoot this guy?
Well, you shoot him center mass. And once again, I don't know the showman. I don't know what his true intentions are, but my first impression is that he missed the shot. Rare is the day that somebody actually tries to take a leg shot.
Yeah.
Especially under stress, when you see somebody's life is in jeopardy and you yank out a pistol to go to work, I highly doubt that it was, well, I'll just shoot this guy in the leg and stop him. Once again, I'm reading a lot into that, but that's been my experience, is that the idea that we're going to be this perfect marksman and things like that this isn't the case. Shooting is a perishable skill. I would ultimately, if I had the capacity to, I would go into details with this gentleman, like, well, where were you aiming? When's the last time you were on the range? I'm just kind of curious about these things, and not to indict him, but simply to gather information. But I tend to believe that he probably missed his shot. And of course, we don't know when the shot was fired. We don't know if the lethal stab had already occurred. There's So we can't second guess that. But I would be curious about when's the last time he was on the range.
Yeah. Well,
Ever.
my gut instincts are pretty much the same. My first thought was, okay, he was aiming center of mass, or maybe he was just pointing the gun. People do that sometimes when they get totally stressed out. Even if something as simple as introducing a shot timer, and some people just totally fall apart, right?
Oh yeah.
Imagine yourself, you've just watched a man die, and now maybe the guy's looking at you, because you just ran up there. It's like the amount of stress. I can't even imagine the amount of stress that's going through your body right now. Your heart rate's skyrocketing. My guess is the guy just pulled out his gun, pointed, and fired. And, well, in this case, a leg shot was good enough to stop the threat.
Well, being shot in the leg is not fun. We people joke about that, especially with calibers. Like, well, 38 is not a good round. It doesn't have enough stopping power. Or 22. Let's say 22. Let's even go down to 22.
Mm-hmm.
22 is an absolutely terrible round for self-defense, and yet I can't find anybody to volunteer to let me shoot them in the leg with the 22.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely right.
It would still make a hole. Does it have stopping power of a 12 gauge buckshot? No, but you still shot somebody. You can change your attitude. You can maybe break their contact. It's hard to say. And plus, we don't know what physical state the attacker was in. Was he on drugs? Was he psychologically unstable? There's once again, there's so much that we don't know about this.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a picture of the guy in his orange jumpsuit. I tend to stereotype people, right? And it's like I'm looking at this picture of this guy, and he had like a wild look in his eyes, like, I don't want this guy, dating my daughter. I guess that was my takeaway on that. But so aim for center of exposed mass, give them lots of distance.
Absolutely. Get distance and shoot them until they stop, and only until they stop. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
You don't know if Johnny Dirtbag's got a buddy coming around the corner. If you dump that entire magazine into somebody, it could be a problem. Plus, our goal is not, and as much as people will growl about this, our goal is not to kill. Our goal is to stop them.
Yeah.
If they perish from the incident, then that's their choice. That's on them. And I'm not trying to dismiss it, but if I shoot you center mass and you're drugged up and all those things, and you keep coming, I'm going to shoot you again. And the more I shoot you, the probability of you surviving goes down dramatically. So the choice is yours.
Well, that's a good way to look at it. Any final thoughts on this incident, Fred?
Well, the only final thought I have is just to remind everybody that anybody can be a threat. Also, if you get into an argument with somebody, you start having an altercation, it's best just to move away. Sometimes it's tough to swallow our pride, but in this situation, and once again, I'm reading into it, this situation, it probably would have served him just to walk away and leave this gentleman to his own and just accept that you, quote unquote, lost the argument.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm fortunate. I've been divorced twice, so I have no more pride left. I lost half my pride in the first divorce, and another half in the second divorce. So, all right, okay. Well, Fred, one more time. What's the name of your training school, and how can people get a hold of you?
It is Force Options USA, and you can hit us at forceoptionsusa.com. I'm all over social media. Sometimes against my will, but it's a good way to communicate with people. I'm kind of a little bit of a curmudgeon old man, but I do enjoy visiting with people. So you can find me in any of those.
All right. Well, Fred, thank you very much for being on the Home Defense Show today.
My absolute pleasure.
All right, folks, that about wraps it up for this week's show. I've had a good time, and I hope you have too. Please don't forget to thank our sponsors, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range at centershotgunrange.com, shootingclasses.com to help you find the right trainer for your needs, Apple Tree Media for website security, and United States Concealed Carry Association. For all your self-defense needs, go to uscca.com. All right, I've written 20-plus books, and they're all available on Amazon.com in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. This week, check out my book, We Hold These Truths, and find out how an Islamic extremist plots to destroy the city of Grand Rapids with a nuclear bomb. And also check out the Home Defense Show videos on Rumble.com. And if you want training from me in person, then check out Midwest Tactical Training at shootingclasses.com. Please join us again next week for all your home defense needs. In the meantime, God bless and stay safe.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best.
Bye-bye, boys!
Have fun storming the castle!